On behalf of our Executive Director, Dr. Tamir Cavaskill, I'd like to welcome you and say good day. My name is Paula Huntley, and I'm the Managing Director of GSU-CIBER. Today's event is the second of a series of webinars we are offering in collaboration with AIB SIG, a shared interest group on teaching and education. We are pleased to partner with AIG SIG since GSU-CIBER and its MSI partners' mission and objectives coincide. Our discussion for today is on sustainability in the international business classroom. Today's moderator is Daria Panina, Associate Professor at Texas A&M University. Daria?
Thank you, Paula. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. We will be talking about critical discussions on sustainability in IB classroom today. Very interesting topic. And as Paula mentioned, this webinar is organized jointly by GSU-CIBER and AIB Teaching and Education shared interest group. We all know GSU-CIBER very well. It needs no introductions. I wanted to show you a brief slide about our group so that you know a little bit more about us. AIB Teaching and Education is part of Academy of International Business. We are a relatively new shared interest group, and we are working with IB educators and trying to help them teach better. So we have a lot of different initiatives. We organize webinars, panels, and different events related to teaching at AIB conferences. We publish newsletter. We now have an annual award dedicated to innovation in IB teaching. We also are working on a repository of teaching tools that IB professors can use. So we have a lot of interesting initiatives, and we are always on the lookout for like-minded colleagues. So if you are interested in IB teaching, please join us. You can find all information you need about us on AIB website. You can also email us or use chat today to get in touch. We would be very, very happy if some of you would join us. About today's webinar, we are having two wonderful speakers, and let me just introduce both of them to you. We are joined today by Dr. Maria Ilieva from Osaka City University, Japan. Maria, thank you very much for being with us today. I know it's pretty late in Japan, so thank you for making this happen. Our second presenter is Dr. Miguel Cordova, a good friend of mine and a fellow member of the Teaching and Education Shared Interest Group. He joins us from Pontificia Universidad Católica del Perú. So we will be talking about very interesting subject, how to teach sustainability in international business classroom, especially when the issues that we are teaching are not straightforward, and they are kind of multifaceted. So the format of today's webinar will be pretty straightforward. So we will have the two speakers presenting first, and then we also plan to have a lot of time for discussion and Q&A. We want to keep this webinar as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions whatsoever, please use chat or Q&A button to type in your question so that we will actually have time to discuss it after the presentations. So without wasting any more time, let me just turn the mic to Maria, who will be presenting first.
Thank you, Daria. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today. My name is Maria Ilieva from Osaka City University in Japan. Just a second to share my screen. So I'm going to present the course that I have been teaching here in Osaka City University and share some ideas about the topics and sources I've been using for discussions about sustainability. The first part of my presentation is about the topics included in the course. The course itself is called Social Sciences, but the issues that we discuss in it are interconnected with diverse sustainability development goals. Usually when we say sustainability, most people make association with environment only. For example, recycling or fighting climate change. Actually, the 17 sustainability goals include much more. That's why I organized the course around the problems which we can encounter in a society like poverty or aging population or gender inequality, and then show their connection with the different sustainability goals. I try to explain also the interconnection among the social, environmental, and economics aspects of the sustainability goals. In the first lecture, I explain what is the connection to a major in business or management. I use many examples to show that everything within one society and or around the world is connected. Here you can see one of these examples. If you work in a logistics company which imports goods in Japan from different countries around the world by ships, then the profits might be influenced by the route the ship will travel. There are very poor countries around the world where part of the population lives from piracy. These groups of people abduct ships and demand ransom. If the ship is kept for a month while the negotiations last, then your company will lose money directly from paying the ransom and indirectly from slowing down the delivery of goods, which your clients will expect. This is a direct impact of poverty in one country, which interferes with and harms business in another. I use a combination of text and videos as teaching sources for the course. The texts are mainly based on the content in the World Social Science Reports by UNESCO Publishing. The text in these reports presents diverse topics from different scientific perspectives like sociology, politics, economics, business, management, finance, psychology, law, education. All of the authors are prominent scholars. One of the texts is by Esther Duflo, who won the Nobel Prize of Economics in 2019. The reports are published in 2010, 2013, and 2016. They are open access and links are provided in the syllabus. Each of the reports is around 650 pages and even more. That's why I write in bold capital letters in the syllabus, please do not read the whole books. Otherwise, the student might get scared by the enormous amount of study materials. For each lecture, I use some short text between 4 and 12 pages maximum. There are two types of text that I use for presenting. One is theory, the other one is case studies. Theory consists of 2 or 3 short texts for each lecture with definitions and elements which can be easily arranged with bullets on a slide. Sometimes the text might be a fabulous story, but then when I try to write it down on a slide, it happens that it cannot be presented well. There is not even a single definition in it. Then it has to drop out and I choose a completely different one. The second type of text is case studies with examples used for initiating discussions, They're called case will focus in the report. You can very easily find it in the contents. You can download the full version of the reports with all the 650 or more pages, or you can download small parts of it by your choice. It's very convenient to distribute them to the students. Here you can see some examples of cases. They vary among topics from teaching climate change and waste reuse to social movement and women empowerment and many other topics. They are also very diverse in sense of geographical location, from China, Ethiopia, Brazil to France and Australia and many other countries and regions around the world. I usually combine these cases with videos on similar or the same topics. The sources for the videos are from the official Facebook pages or YouTube channels of World Economic Forum, Business Insider, Nobel Prize, The Economist, TED, and many others. There is a new channel in YouTube by Swiss Learning Exchange, which is focused on the 3 pillars of sustainability: social, economic, and environmental. I'm going to implement it in the new course for this year, which in Japan actually starts in April. Now is the very beginning of the school year here. So what is the interconnection among the sustainability development goals and what is the connection to a business major? The first example that I use, so this one is not just a video, but also there is a text in the Nobel Prize official web page. It's about Wangari Maathai, who was a Nobel laureate of many firsts. The first woman in East and Central Africa to earn a doctorate degree, the first female professor in Kenya, and the first African woman to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. She was also a committed environmentalist and founded the Green Belt movement, which led to the planting of millions of trees and created jobs for millions of women in Africa. In the video about her, it was said that at 39, she divorced her husband because he accused her of being too educated, too successful, too hard to control. If she was a man, would she be in such a situation? I believe that the answer is clear to all of us. The obvious sustainability development goals here are for climate action, life on land, gender equality, and reduced inequality. More difficult to identify are decent work and economic growth, because she created jobs for millions of women. Also clean water and sanitation, because she explains in the video that if we don't plant trees, the soil erodes and the water drains in it. In this way, we lose not only the soil, but also the so precious water. Another very important sustainability development goal is about quality of education, because she went to the US to study a PhD thanks to a scholarship she had won. Without this doctoral degree, she wouldn't have had all these ideas and achieved her success. So the next story is about Jane Goodall. Her discovery in 1960 that chimpanzees made and used tools is considered one of the greatest achievements of 20th century scholarship. She popularizes her understanding that we have to consider animals as individuals, not as objects, because they have emotions just like us. We have to preserve the environment not only for our children, but also for ourselves. Her Global Roots and Shoots program supports tens of thousands of young people in nearly 100 countries with projects that help people, animals, and the environment. She's a messenger of peace to the United Nations since 2002 and continues to help the United Nations focus attention on environmental issues. She works jointly on this topic with Leonardo DiCaprio. Her mother supported her since early childhood. She joined her in Combe during the first 6 months of Jane's field work and opened a school for the children there. In all the talks that Jane Goodall gives, she always underlines this, that actually her mother's support helped her to follow her dream. So women empowerment starts from the family, not from some enforced state or corporate policy. She shared in a BBC broadcast that it was very difficult to her to pursue a PhD because she didn't have a bachelor's degree. She said, I didn't go to college because my family couldn't afford one. So this is one of the goals here, again, about quality of education and also reduced inequality, which are not so easily seen otherwise from this example. So the next example is a direct connection to business. It is about Dame Stephanie or Steve Shirley. She founded a women-only software company with a capital of just £6 and grew her business into a multinational company. In the 1960s, women were expected to stop working after marriage, and this led to many qualified and experienced specialists being ignored by the workforce. She had everybody working from home and paid them for the tasks that they achieved, not by the hours they worked. And that was a big change that really made a difference. She didn't receive any answers by her clients initially. Then her husband told her that her name, Stephanie Shirley, was double female, and this was a big drawback. Since then, she started signing her letters as Steve, and this made again a big change because she started getting answers by the same potential clients who hadn't answered before. The next part of my presentation is about business and philanthropists and also about developed countries helping developing countries. The first example is about Norman Borlaug. He is the founder of the Green Revolution and Nobel Peace Prize laureate for 1970. He saved millions of people from mass starvation and played a central role in teaching the world to feed itself. At his Nobel Prize speech, he said that we have 3 barriers we have to go across. The first one is technological, the second is psychological. That's why he collaborated with local farmers to help them overcome the fear of change. And we can consider this as a direct contribution to business because we can take them as some small enterprise owners. The third barrier is the economic barrier. He introduced a new type of wheat that was highly disease resistant and not easily affected by wind and rain. Thanks to this innovation, Mexico became self-sufficient in wheat in about 11 years and Pakistan in 7 years. The last example is about Sean Sadler, the founder of Clean the World. He was staying in hotels 150 days per year and once wondered what was happening with all these unused toiletries after he checked out. He called the reception and understood that they were thrown away. Sadler developed a way to recycle used bars of soap into new sterile ones, which can then be donated to children and families around the world who don't have easy access to soap. That makes them susceptible to diseases like pneumonia and diarrhea, which kill almost 1.5 million children under the age of 5 every year. But this can be prevented by simple hand washing. Since 2009, Clean the World has distributed more than 50 million bars of soap to people in 127 countries. It has recycling facilities in Orlando, Las Vegas, Montreal, and Hong Kong. It works with 8,000 hotel and resort partners, including Walt Disney World Hotels, Marriott, and Hilton. Hilton joined forces with Clean the World in March 2019. In its first 7 months, Hilton donated 2 million pounds of toiletries, which contributed to 7.6 million bars of recycled soap. Clean the World has kept 20 million pounds of hotel waste from polluting North American landfills since it was founded. On one side, with this partnership, they help people to stay healthy, and on the other side, they reduce pollution with a simple initiative. Thank you for listening.
Okay, Maria, thank you very much. So I guess we will now move to the second presentation. Miguel, let's do that, and then we will kind of have a Q&A afterwards.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much, Daria. You know, I was delighted listening, Maria. Thank you so much, Maria, for your presentation. It was great to know that all that information. So please let me share my screen to begin my presentation. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Miguel Córdoba. I am Associate Professor of Management at Pontificia Universidad Católica del Perú. And our topic for today, as you know, is leading critical discussions on sustainability and in IB Classroom. And the title of my presentation is When Good Intentions Endangers Sustainable Hopes. So we are going to talk about this kind of difficult trade-offs that we have to deal in many different economic activities in different countries or different parts of the world. So I'm going to begin telling you a brief story about fish meal supply chain. As you probably know, the fish meal is one of the main protein sources for balanced feed for several animals like birds, pigs, and most used in the aquaculture industry. So it allows to feed with a high protein feed to fish, to fish that is for human consumption. The Peruvian anchovy is one of the preferred species to produce this fish meal. This fish meal is like a powder, a flavor doing by cooking the fish. But we need to use a small fish that is known for human consumption. So the preferred species for this are these pelagic species that usually swims not too up in the ocean and not too down. So maybe they are in the middle part of the ocean, and they are small species of fish that permit us to produce this fish meal and the fish oil. That it's a second product of the manufacturing process. So Peru is one of it's probably the main exporter, the main producer and exporter in the world of fish meal. We are producing around 900,000 tons of fish meal. And the second one, I think, is the European Union with like 500,000. So it's a very large gap between them. And the Peru country, as I was saying, is the first exporter in the world for this product. Each ton of fish meal allows us to grow 4 tons of human consumption species through the aquaculture industry. So it's very important for us. It's a product that is very important for us in order to provide the aquaculture industry the feed that they need to grow this other species of fish. Fish meal industry contributes to better employment rates, most in the emerging economies, in some emerging countries. So, as we were saying, with this all investment and efforts that we are reinforcing in the supply chain of fish meal, we are achieving some strategic goals, some important goals, such as the SDGs. For instance, the SDG 1, that's no poverty, the SDG 2, zero hunger, and the SDG 8, that is decent work and economic growth. So everything seems good so far, but if we going deep inside the processes that relies below, the surface of the fish meal supply chain, if we use this kind of devices, we could find a completely different story of what this fish meal supply chain could mean for us towards sustainability. So the second part of my presentation is to talk about how we can do harm intending to do good. And I am going to focus on three different processes inside the fish meal supply chain. The first one is fishing. While fishing in the ocean, these boats, these fishing boats, are using plastic, rubber, and other materials that are actually polluting the ocean, are contaminating the ocean. They also are using some fishing techniques, some informal teaching methods, such as trolling, for instance, that are actually damaging the marine ecosystems. In addition to this, they are not, usually they are not having so respect for the size of the fish, or they do not have a proper differentiation about which species are the correct ones to cut, and the other ones, they are not allowed the permitted quantities for fishing, or they are fishing in wrong areas, in forbidden areas in the ocean. So with our good intentions, we are actually doing harm to the SDG 13 climate ocean and the SDG 14 life below water. The second process is the manufacture. Okay, manufacturing facilities for fish meal are using fossil fuel, are generating uncomfortable smell in the surroundings of the manufacturing facility. They are generating some toxic microorganisms, and these toxic microorganisms could favor the generation of plagues and diseases in the surroundings areas. And also, because of this, they are not achieving favorable licenses to operate by the community. So the community that surrounds this kind of facilities are very upset with this kind of operation. So again, intending to do good, we are doing actually harm to other SDGs, such as the SDG 7, that is affordable and clean energy, SDG 11, that is sustainable cities and communities, 12, responsible consumption and production, and also 13, that is climate action. The third and final process that we are going through is distribution. To distribute fish meal, I mean to transport and export fish meal, we need ports. And ports operation includes noisy trucks and increased traffic jam in the city. Also, because of this, it involves security around the port. I mean, high criminality rates or delinquency rates. Also, ports contributes to the air and ocean pollution because of their operation. And as we probably know, ports are like the doors to several illegal activities such as drug traffic. So again, intending to do good, actually, we are endangering other important goals for us in order to achieve sustainable practices such as the SDG 3, good health and well-being, sustainable cities and communities, climate action, and life below water. So we are usually facing this kind of difficult situations to decide, but probably the key to develop a better strategy towards sustainability is to be aware of it, of this kind of situations. So if we are going to talk about sustainability in our economic activities, we need to think activities as a double-sided coin, or maybe as a double-edged sword, because we are, as we said before, we were usually facing this kind of trade-off scenarios, and our students will face plenty of these trade-off scenarios, these negative trade-off scenarios in their professional lives, and intending to do good, probably sometimes they will decide inadvertently wrong, and we need to prepare them for this kind of situation or scenarios. The students must learn how to think, but in a holistic way. They must learn how to think inside, between, and outside of a complete landscape. You know, this kind of complete landscape, and understand how the interconnected processes are operating inside this landscape. But most important, they need to be careful not doing harm, intending to do good. I have here some questions that may lead the discussion in the IB classroom. The first one is related to the participants' capacities. Are systems participants capable to deliver the strategies, the products and services the same way we are imagining they can do? It's very important because in different contexts, the participants of supply chains in this course, or maybe in another economic systems, have different capacities, different capabilities that they could mobilize in order to fulfill or to achieve these strategies. Which contextual factors would constrain these good intentions? The context is a really important issue that we need to take into consideration when we are talking about sustainable strategies. What are the impacts delivered by system sections? Okay, this question invites us not to think only on the results, but to think in the previous stages results, in the previous stages results and sections within the entire system. And we need to move from local to global and global to local also, using both perspectives in order to understand the impacts that we are delivering after the system's results. How could we collaborate designing processes and mechanisms with systems participants? We need to involve them. I mean, we need to consider the point of view and the perspectives of the people that are actually operating inside the system in order to collaboratively design a proper sustainable strategy and make better decisions as well. We are assuming the same methods would work under different contexts, and this is a question, another question related with the context. You know, usually we are used to import some methods and models that we are not sure if they are going to work in the same way. Are we including an evaluation of impacts? We need to take care of include proper evaluations and proper monitoring plans in order to have the control of the system's results over time. So these questions could help you to conduct this kind of discussions in IB classrooms in order to identify these trade-off situations, these difficult situations when, as we were saying previously, with good intentions, maybe we inadvertently doing, we could causing harm or enhancing several risks. As Professor Pamela Ryan said last year, adopting an ecosystems mindset means knowing that actions in one part of the entire system reverberate with consequences in several parts of the system, no matter how removed in geography, sector, or time. This is important. No matter how removed in geography, sector, or time, the consequences will be there. From the individual to the collective, from suppliers to consumers, and every intermediary or actor in between. So finally, we must find the way to sustainability. There will be always a way, no matter the course that we are teaching. We need to find this kind of way to reach sustainability approach and to identify this kind of trade-off situations. We need to go all the way through in order to really attain an overall perspective of the entire system. We know This is real challenging. Sustainability is as elusive as complex, and we know that. However, I think it's our responsibility, and it is a huge responsibility to pick up the crumbs, the small pieces of the puzzle that she left as her past, in order to find a proper solution, a proper path to achieve sustainability in a comprehensive manner. Thank you so much for your attention.
Well, thank you, Miguel. I think we now can move to the discussion. So I will invite everyone who has any questions to our speakers to participate. I guess I will just start. The issue of sustainability clearly is important. It's one of the major priorities for the United Nations. We talk about it a lot. And some cases of sustainability and then people who kind of champion these causes, they are truly inspirational. So Maria, I really loved, you know, your little case studies, because I think, you know, focusing on role models and people who can inspire us, especially by looking at them as individuals as they kind of struggle with their own lives. I think for our students, this is really important. The question I had for you was, what kind of teaching tools or assignments can you use with students to help them think through the impact of these amazing people you were talking about?
Thank you, Daria, for the question. Actually, it's easy for me to associate and to identify with these people too, because I also came from Bulgaria to Japan with a scholarship. So there are many other also received support from my family too. So it's easy for me to give such type of examples. Well, in general, I'm using some materials which I share in web class. This is the common space where everybody can read them beforehand. And after that, I usually divide them in teams so that they can discuss among each other in a group of 5 or 6 people. And after that, they can share what they have discussed. In the beginning, they're usually shy, but in the end of the semester, there are some comments of the sort, well, I think this and that, but 2 other people from my team have a completely different opinion about this. And then there is one person who thinks something in between this. So usually they start discussing their own personal point of view. Also, I'm using Microsoft Teams during the pandemic when there was such type of synchronous teaching and learning. It was very easy there to follow the different channels and what they are discussing among each other. And I could also step in and then discuss something which they prefer to talk about in their own group.
Thank you. Well, it seems to me that a big part of talking about critical issues is that, as Miguel said, they are multidimensional and there are so many ways to look at them, and they might appear as good things to some people, but then somehow they can have very negative impact on some other stakeholders and groups. And I actually very much like this comment of yours about students not agreeing all the time. And I think this is really what teaching is all about, right? We are trying to make sure that students form their own opinion, but they kind of look at issues holistically. One of the thoughts I had, Miguel, about your presentation is this idea that, you know, you have to look from multiple perspectives on any sort of initiative or process. And I was wondering if, do you think that it actually works on both graduate or undergraduate level? Because it seems like undergraduate students sometimes do not have enough knowledge or experience to kind of identify all the complexity of the issues that we are talking about.
Thank you so much, Larry, for your question and your reflection. I think it's very interesting talking about how the students could be involved in this kind of multidimensional analysis, as you were saying. Probably the most important challenge here could be how they could be have a sense of be part of the entire system, as we were mentioning in the presentation. An action or decision in any part of the system is going to have several consequences, different consequences in other parts of the system. So if we are, if we need to involve students in this kind of perspective, we need to convince them that they are actually taking part of these systems, of these economic systems, with every decision that we are that they are making in their lives, their daily decisions actually, since they are deciding which pen we are going to use or buy, or which headphones or which phone we prefer to buy. This kind of simple decisions could seem as simple, but actually they are too much complex than that, because since small decisions like buying a pen actually is triggering several actions that need to be realized, that need to be generated in order to obtain this pen, or to be able to buy this pen. I mean, we are moving several transport intermediaries, logistics operators, warehouses, maybe airports, ports, trucks, port operators, and several companies, intermediaries, producers, and so on. So probably a good way to do this, and I saw a similar comment in the chat box. A way to do this is to explain to students how they could be involved through their daily decisions, their simple decisions of their daily activities, how they are involved in these huge systems and processes, and how their actions, as small as they seem, have these different consequences in other parts of the suppliers or the financial market, or maybe the global trends of sustainability or health trends, healthy global trends, or something like that. So, but on the other hand, actually, it's quite difficult. I think that's what your first question. It's quite difficult for firms, for companies, to trace this whole multidimensional landscape. You know, now we have some mechanisms or technology that could aid us for this. For instance, blockchain. Blockchain could help us how to trace and gain visibility over the entire system, but it's not a complete visibility, not yet. But we are moving forward to do so. But now for companies, it could be quite expensive to gain this overall visibility of the entire system, and could be really expensive as well as difficult for them to do that.
Okay, well, there is a question in chat, and I think you started answering this question a little bit. I just want to kind of touch on it a little bit more. So Paula Herring asks about working with students on the responsibility they kind of develop. So what kind of suggestions can we have of how to be using this approach in teaching, right? So how can we engage students in becoming more responsible? And I think your suggestion that we should explain and give them examples that some of their decisions actually are the things that quite important, even though they are small decisions. The way I see it, though, is that, you know, imagine you have a student and you give them a question of whether they should use one cell phone or another cell phone. And they can actually come up with pros and cons for each cell phone. But then the question is, how do you make this decision eventually? So every single issue in IB has some positives and some negatives. I don't think we will find any kind of initiative or process that will be just positive. And given that, you know, we recognize that this is the case, how do we move on from there?
Yes, as you said, probably most of the activities that we are involved in have a negative part or a negative consequences in another part of the system. So maybe we don't have to stress much with this kind of incomplete awareness of the landscape that we have so far, because as we were saying, try to map this kind of complex scenarios or this kind of multidimensional landscapes could be sometimes impossible. So, but we need to prepare our students for future, and in the future, companies will be able to trace their activities in a more comprehensive way. Companies will be able to map their processes and their entire supply chains and their entire value chains across the world. I was reading a report a month ago that it said that a company, due to the coronavirus outbreak or the COVID-19 negative effects in the society, this company had to map their suppliers network, and this process took thousands of dollars for sure, but it took like a year to do that. So it's now, if companies need to map this kind of multidimensional processes or scenarios, they need to invest many resources, such as time or money. But in the future, companies will be more able to do that with less resources. And we need to prepare our students to maybe not to complete the whole scenario right now, because it's too difficult for for an individual to map the consequences of a small decision, right? The whole consequences. But if we teach them how to think inside this this systemic perspective on focusing on the overall system, not just in the small pieces, we are going to prepare them for this more critical way to approach the problems.
And in chat, Angela Ramos actually pretty much mentions the same thing, right? She says maturity and experience will come. We just need to challenge our students to kind of think critically about these issues. So Maria, the question for you, I was really impressed with the list of all the different sources you are using to give students examples of some of the sustainability initiatives and people who champion them. In your experience, do any of these examples have this critical component? Do they talk about some challenges that these initiatives face?
Yes, they do. Actually, the topic, for example, of the lecture might be gender equality. Then I will underline this part, but after that I can ask them additionally what kind of sustainability development goals they can appoint in this particular example. But then the focus might be on just on gender equality. And additionally, it might be, for example, on sustainable cities, or the topic might be, for example, for some environmental issues or for innovation to sustainability. So it depends what kind of a topic there is. First, I'm using different sources, different texts from the reports. And then this is like a theory, which is for the presentation for the class. And after that, I'm giving them these cases which are for the discussion part, so that they can see more in particular what exactly can happen in such type of situations and how can this be applied in their real life. And usually when it's something about recycling or green cities, sustainability of cities or something in connection to ecology, they can very easily give examples, because in Japan there are very particular rules about how to sort the garbage, for example. In the building that I live in, there are very strict rules about this, so what kind of garbage should be divided in what way. And everybody is following these rules. There's just no way for you not to follow it. Just the moment you come here and you start living in Japan, you're just following. There is no other option. So it's very easy for them to give such examples. Also for recycling or reusing of different products. And the other thing is, for example, ever since they were born, their mothers go around with them by bicycles. After that, they take them to the kindergarten or to school. And then when the child is like 6 or 7 years old, they have their own bicycles. So they don't drive them around by car. So they can give such type of examples very easy about everyday life. Then when it's about gender equality, sometimes, most of the times actually they're somehow shy. And I receive some personal messages in chat, well, you know, this is a very important topic, but I think that it will take lots of years in order to have some changes in this way. So it depends on the topic.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a very interesting comment here in chat, which talks, Sarah who is talking about the interesting trend in the way companies are treating sustainability. And she talks about the fact that companies often kind of move the decision-making on sustainability to customers. So instead of actually dealing with a particular sustainability issue, they kind of push this to other stakeholders. So plastic companies, for example, might continue making plastic products and then emphasize the fact that consumers have to recycle. So it's a little bit cynical in this way. And I guess the question is, how do we teach our students to kind of go beyond individual initiatives and think about companies and their responsibilities as well?
I guess this question is for me, right, Daddy?
Well, this question is for everyone. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud. It really strikes me as a very important question.
Yeah, maybe Maria could wants to.
Yes,
that.
again, I can give example from Japan because here most of, like, the bigger the companies, the more policy they have about sustainability goals. And actually, when you open whichever site of a company, you can see very detailed reports about, sometimes it's only about environment, sometimes it's included in the CSR report, or it is included in some compliance report or in their annual report. They have very detailed examples about what they are doing for particular types of issues that they are facing. Most of the time they're sharing also how they include women in the workforce and how many managers they have. Again, female, because this is the trend at the moment that women should be included more actively in the workforce and specifically in managerial positions and also among board of directors. And there are also many examples about different cases that they are using something particular they're conducting. For example, if it is a building company, they can renovate a whole neighborhood with some old buildings, and they can just demolish them, and after that make much safer newer block of flats, which are much safer in cases of earthquakes, which here is very important because earthquakes happen every year. So the buildings, the newer they are, the more safer for the people who live in. And many other examples too.
Yeah, well, actually, Sarah in her chat gave the link to a blog. So if you are following the chat, make sure you check it out because I think it's a very interesting to share with our students. Well, we are running out of time, I'm afraid to say. So if there are no other questions or comments, I will turn the mic to Leanne, who will be closing this session.
Thank you, Daria, Maria, and McGill for this wonderful session with fascinating materials. Thank you everyone for joining us from all over the world. The slides and recording of this session will be available in a few days at our GSU-CIBER website. Before you leave, please take 1 minute to respond to our survey. And we have more webinars coming up and hope to see you then. Thanks everyone. Till next time.